I want to jump to this story and announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, Timcast.com is officially Newsguard certified.
Let's go.
They gave us a score of an 82 out of 100. The reason I think this warrants a story is why they gave us an X on one issue of gathering and presenting information responsibly. To put it simply, we adhere to all standards of Newsguard. For those that are not familiar, Newsguard is a certification agency that rates all news organizations. It is used by big tech companies to determine whether or not you can share the content or it gets seen by others. Because in about 5 stories out of 4,000, it's 3,892 stories. 5 of them had issues. 1 of them, I believe, was a fact issue. 2 of them were for quoting the president himself, and 2 were because we had sentences that were just a little too similar to other organizations, even though the sentences themselves were quite generic. The reason why I think this is relevant, this affects how we get viewed on Facebook if you share one of our articles. This is how the cathedral operates. We use Newsguard as a bias checker on our own. It's also a shield. If we report a story that says, how about this? The Hunter Biden laptop was confirmed and the emails in it are known to be real. Well, if someone tries claiming we're spreading conspiracy theories, I need only look to the Daily Mail and the New York Post, who are certified by Newsguard and said this is true. And then I can say, take it up with that certified agency used by big tech companies. They claimed that because in 2 articles, we did a fact-based report, Donald Trump says, quote, in response to quote, that because we didn't run a fact check, we are irresponsible and sharing misleading information because, as Newsguard said, Trump's quotes were provably false. I said, okay, how about this? We weren't doing a fact check article. We were just reporting the news. But if you want, moving forward, we will include a fact check. Here's where it gets really funny. As I stated, this is what the institution, the cathedral, uses. It's funded by, I believe, Microsoft and Bill Gates particularly, or people mention it. It may just be Microsoft. In the nutrition label, and again, I have to stress this because this is what they consider to be the standard for big tech. They had 4 errors outright. Incorrectly labeling my job at Timcast, at Vice, and at Fusion. Falsely labeling the Tales from the Inverted World as science fiction and fantasy. They corrected all of those immediately, only after I told them they made the mistake. They injected opinion, referring to Cass Castle as mundane. And the best part of the whole thing is
that's the most offensive part of all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I think it's stellar
absolutely.
work.
Yeah.
They have injected a false quote from me, which has to be the most egregious thing. And this is what I want to say. And I want it to be on the record. And forgive me if it's a bit internal or esoteric to the industry. When you have an organization that violates its own standards and accuses you of being irresponsible, well, now we have...
The FBI? I'm just kidding, by the way. I don't
perhaps,
know if the FBI
yes.
does that or not.
Well, you've got an issue there. So let me... I want to show you this. They say, asked by Newsguard about the above unchallenged claims. This was because we said, Donald Trump says, quote. Mm-hmm. In an email, Poole said, we will institute a policy immediately on all quotes moving... here's what they wrote. On all quotes, bracket, that are false, bracket, moving forward to run fact checks, and we'll have those 2 articles updated immediately. I never said that, nor did I imply it. Quite the opposite. Wow. I told Newsguard that if you require us to run a fact check on Donald Trump's quotes, the policy would require us to fact check every single quote from anyone we ever report on. And we will do that if that's what your standard dictates. That would put Newsguard in an impossible situation and potentially put them in civil tort liability positions. So they injected a false quote from me that said that are false, which I never said. I have requested a correction twice now on that false quote. They have not corrected it. So...
But Tim, they did not call you the black face of white supremacy.
Now that's special.
So give them that.
That should be the blurb on every
give them
book.
That. Give them
This
that.
is the standard by which the media operates. It is an impossible standard. That being said, an 82 out of 100 is one of the highest ratings you can probably get. We got 1 ding. But we have 5 articles out of 3,892. This needs to be said so that you all understand. For one, I am already preparing litigation. Newsguard, you are being warned, okay? I will be very distinct and clear. Give me standing against Wikipedia, and I will launch a lawsuit in 2 seconds and put my money where my mouth is. Newsguard, you want to claim we are irresponsible? Here's what they claimed. Because they alerted us to 5 articles and we didn't catch them, that means we're irresponsible. I got 6 errors from you on your own website. If your standard is that we have to be more responsible than you are, I'd love to see you file that in court so I can parade it around after we file if you don't correct this.
Also, what are the news organizations that led us into war with Iraq? What are their ratings?
100 out of 100. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you USA Today. USA Today receives a 100 out of 100 credibility rating, despite the fact that on their page they say, in June 2022, USA Today took down nearly 24 stories by a reporter whom the newspaper said appeared to have made up people she quoted.
Right.
Newsguard fabricated a quote from me.
Yep.
They even acknowledge USA Today fabricated stories, but they are 100 out of 100.
Also,
I would argue that this has to put them in some kind of civil tort territory. I will show every single certification they've ever given, and I will show they have no legitimate standards. And I want them in court to admit it.
USA Today drove that story several years ago that black churches were being burned because of racism. And it turned out completely, totally bogus. There were more mosques and synagogues that were burned. Most of the black churches that were burned were in the forest, in the woods. Very few of them were burned as a result of somebody doing it because of racism. Completely set this whole country, pardon the expression, on fire. The story was completely and totally bogus.
I am just learning that today in 2022.
And what did they say about us? We quoted Trump, but didn't include context challenging Trump.
Which, by the way,
which is misleading.
You as a news organization quoting the president of the United States, either way, whether Trump was right or wrong, is still covering the news, and it is certainly less nefarious than Newsguard purposefully misquoting you.
I will add, this is part of what gives them the credibility as their agency, but I want to stress that it's used by these big tech companies. But I also want to stress the purpose here is to show you what their standard is. When they claim the New York Times is factual, when they claim that USA Today is factual, they emailed me saying, "This is you're going to love this, guys, because we didn't talk too much about this before."
I'm going to flip the table
The first
over.
thing they tried getting us on, saying these are fake news, was that the Hunter Biden laptop story. They said, you claimed that Hunter Biden, in an email, was seeking funding for biolabs or whatever. And I said, well, I didn't claim that. The Daily Mail and the New York Post did. And they said, that's not been verified. I said, I'm sorry. You certified the Daily Mail and the New York Post as credible agencies, which I used in my assessment of their fact statements. Would you like to now have on the record that you don't consider your own certifications to be viable? They immediately responded with, this one's too murky, so we're going to ignore it. And I said, you refuse to admit that you're challenging your own certifications. You got to understand, guys. This is this culture war, and the issues we're facing with censorship are deeper than just one story about Elon Musk and Twitter.
Of course they are.
And behind the scenes, I want to let you all know, people are saying, like, why don't you do more? Put your money where your mouth is. If I have harped on Wikipedia for defamation, because Wikipedia says from Wikipedia on every article. That is a byline. I don't have standing to sue them. You need standing and you need injury. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's correct?
Why don't you have standing?
They did not defame me. Wikipedia, their article about me is actually fairly neutral or opinion. Veritas, I believe Wikipedia is, I'm not James, so I don't know for sure, but I believe it's verifiably false what they've published, which means they would have standing. And then what they need to do is challenge Wikipedia's 230 protections under the grounds that they've put their byline on the article, not the users. As for Newsguard, I have done everything to make sure that anything they do grants me standing, so I can make sure they have to file in court why they're lying, have no standards, or are factually incorrect, and then we'll just leave it at that for the time being. Now, I like Newsguard in that I like in the respect that we'll use them, and I'll say, don't look at me. They're the ones certifying it. I'll pass the buck to them. That's what they are, the responsibilities they are taking. And I can respect that. But don't come to me and tell me there is no standard by which we can be deemed a credible news organization when you have lower standards for other organizations. That I find to be slanderous and defamatory. And the fact that they fabricated a quote from me crossed the line. I was content with saying they need to correct this earlier today until I read they fabricated a quote from me to protect their asses.
Did they take a quote and then add stuff to it?
Yep.
What did they add exactly?
They added bracket, that was false, to imply
Oh, bracket. So they're assuming you implied that.
Which is also, I believe, I would argue maybe even grounds for malice, because what I actually said was, it's an impossible standard, but we'll do it. To add those words is to imply my statement was actually that we will begin fact-checking false statements that we weren't fact-checking before.
But I mean,
it is to imply that I was accepting false statements.
It's also nonsense.
We have a corrections policy and we don't allow false statements.
But you can't know if something's false until after you fact check it.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Because they knew my statement to be included would show that they have broken standards. They put a fake quote in place. I'm not standing for that.
I hope I have some basis for a lawsuit. After my campaign for governor, I was just a skosh under 1 million followers on Twitter. Over the next several months, I lost about 30,000. And I still lose about 100 per day. However, a few weeks ago when Elon Musk announced his intention to buy Twitter, I gained 10,000 followers within 24 hours. How does that happen?
You're not alone.
How does it? I know. And a lot of conservatives gained a lot of, and a lot of liberals lost a lot of followers in one fell swoop within 24, 48 hours.
That is some severe some malpractice.
Tell me about it.
Something.
We're going to go to
That's
Super
like a class
Chats.
action thing.
We're going to Super Chats, but YouTube has been breaking on us. So
Before we do, Larry, what's your mom's name? Because I want to attribute that quote to her.
Viola Elder,
Can you say that quote one more time?
like, like the instrument.
Yeah, do you want to say it, Larry?
The truth will not set you free if delivered without hope.
Yes. So we've been, my husband and I have been having an ongoing conversation over whether facts care about your feelings. And I argue that you can't convince someone of a fact unless you also care about the feelings. It's kind of like what Maya Angelou said. She said people will, forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you feel.
My mother couldn't stand Maya Angelou.
Yeah. I
couldn't stand. Thought she was phony.
Yes.
By the way, you know she's not a doctor. They call
yeah?
her Dr. Maya. She's no degree.
Oh, really?
Oh. My mother thought she was completely phony. Thought her accent was all made up. My mother couldn't stand her.
Yes.
Can you guys call me doctor from now on?
I'll call you anything you want.
Hell yeah, let's
Dr.
go.
Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
No,
So
Is it
doctor.
Viola, Viola?
Yes.
Nice.
So I don't like to use that Maya Angelou quote because I don't like her either. But I think she has a point in that people don't really care if you're presenting them with facts. If you appear to
great
not
point.
care about how they feel.
Right.
Well, that's why comedy can be so powerful, right? It's like it evokes a physical feeling, and then if you can laugh together, chances are you can figure some stuff out together.
And it would be nice if late night comedy wasn't so far to the left.
Well,
the
it's
only one is Greg Gutfeld's the only one that's late night that is not left wing.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
about 15% of young people admit that they get their primary source of news from the monologues.
Larry, I would like to argue that they are also not funny, so not technically comedians.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.